All right, everyone, welcome back into the Doop podcast. I'm Zero, and let's talk about the Union's season here, finishing second place in the Eastern Conference here in 2021 after winning the Supporters Shield last year. Now, second place, as far behind New England as they finished, everybody finished super far behind New England. I have to say, I am shocked that they finished second. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I saw this team maybe finishing third or fourth is the highest. A lot of the analysts and experts, so-called experts on MLSsoccer.com and all that, had them finishing in the middle of the pack of the East. Some even like much lower. Nobody expected them to really finish this high again, and just proving that last year was not a fluke. And this was an even more challenging year. You're talking about, being defending Supporters Shield champions, defending the Eastern Conference, and the fact that you had Champions League mixed in. You go on a deep run in the Champions League, making it to the semifinals in your first ever trip to the Champions League. Just what a job by Jim Curtin this year. All the stuff he had to manage to get through with this squad and to get them where they got to is pretty phenomenal, and hopefully a deep run in the playoffs is to come. But you think about, like I just said, the Champions League, all that distractions in the beginning of the season, all your marbles were getting thrown in there. You could do a good deep run in that. You get knocked out ultimately, but a very strong showing in your first ever Champions League campaign. Then you have to mix in the fact that you lose three of your huge starters from last season: Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, Ray Gaddis. These are three guys that contributed massively to your team last season, winning the Supporters Shield. They weren't just role players or bench guys. These were three guys that played huge roles in your team getting to how they got to last season. And essentially, you didn't really replace them. You had Jack Elliott to step back in for McKenzie. You thought maybe Fontana would be the guy to replace Aronson. So that's another point. Fontana and Ilsinho basically haven't even been on the team last year. They were like huge contributors last season. You think Ilsinho, who was Mr. Bench there, and Fontana was scoring 6 or 7 goals last year. So crazy to think that those guys weren't even a part of the squad really this year, especially Ilsinho. Fontana's played in a few games off the bench, but he hasn't played a lot of minutes. So essentially you're missing those two guys who were huge contributors into, offense last year. Taking to the fact also that you had guys like Montero, who's missed games with transfer drama and whatnot, and Martinez, who's missed because of suspensions, and international duty like Gazdag and Burke and Blake, Powell, all these guys that have missed games because of international duty, and injuries to Santos, injuries to Burke. It's just crazy to think that this team finished second with all the missing players they've had throughout. They haven't had a full squad for a lot of games this season. In fact, they really haven't had their full squad all season. Ilsinho, a big part of the team, has not even played, but he's getting the most out of players like Leon Flock, out of a player like Bizo, who stepped up big this year. Jack Elliott and Glesnes were amazing. Wagner was probably maybe our best player, him and Blake. And then you look at the youngsters, the homegrowns that stepped up: Jack McGlynn, Paxton Aronson, who's looking really good, much like his brother did, and Quinn Sullivan as well, and even Harriel jumped into some games. You saw Matt Real, Matt Freese started some games for us in net, so we got a lot of contributions. Stuart Finley, I thought, was a little shaky in his first couple games, but he played pretty well in the last few games he played, Stuart Finley, so he's starting to settle in. You're seeing Gazdag settling in now. Finally, he's contributing big time on the offensive end. We didn't even get a great season out of Montero either. Montero was, let me check the stats. I think he only had 2 goals this year. 2 goals, 6 assists in 27 games. Not great for a guy that you're paying a lot of money to. You expect a lot of points out of. I mean, Kai Wagner, our left back, had 3 goals and 7 assists, had more points. Glesnes had 3 goals. Elliott had 2. These guys had just as many or more goals than a guy who's supposed to be a major contributor in offense. So, not great from him, but he had his moments for sure. And he's looking a little bit better lately on the defensive side too. Bedoya 3-3. You see Paxton Aronson had 3 goals and not a lot of minutes. Gazdag chipped in 4 and 5. Burke and Santos, again, not very consistent players. They've been injured a lot. Santos with just 6 goals, Burke with just 4. Most of Burke's goals came early in the season. Santos is really good on his day, but he gets injured too much for me. I think we really need to look into getting another permanent striker up there to help Shilbilko out. Shilbilko, 12 goals, 4 assists. He did everything he could, considering the service he got. He played in, I think, every game and contributed 12 goals, 4 assists to lead the team. So he did everything he could, offensively. There's only so much one player can do. He needs more help around him, I think. Gazdag was starting to produce that, and even Aronson now starting to produce that. Bedoya 3-3, pretty good from the captain. You can't really expect much offense out of him. He does the job. He leads the team. He's great. What can you say? You have Flock and Martinez that really aren't offensive players, and that kind of is a liability in offense at times. You look at Fontana, no goals, 1 assist. He only played 350 minutes. You look at freaking Ilsinho, who played just 78 minutes this year. That's it. Crazy. Bizo chipped in 4 assists from the right back position. So he, delivering some delicious crosses in there. So yeah, our offense isn't great. It was a lot better last year because we had a lot more consistency and a lot more help around the players. You had Santos, who was mostly healthy. Shilbilko playing, getting more service. You had Aronson, of course, Brendan Aronson I'm talking about. You had Wagner, and you had Fontana and Ilsinho were huge contributors as well. So we had a lot more help on offense last year. Montero was probably a little better. I don't know. But, I'm glad with the youngsters. They've been stepping up and playing well off the bench. They're going to be key contributors in the playoffs, too. So we finished second in the East with 54 points, tied with Nashville, but we had more wins. 48 goals forwarded, which isn't bad, but it's, not as great as the other top teams in the East. And 35 goals allowed, which is pretty good defense. That's just a little over a goal a game. One of the better defenses in the league again. We kind of faltered later in the season, leaking in some bad goals, but overall, very good. I think 12 shutouts for Andre Blake. He was fantastic in that again. Speaking of Blake, he is up for goalkeeper of the year again. Will he win it? I don't know. I think they're going to give it to Matt Turner, but you never know. So finishing second means we get home field unless we run into New England in the Eastern Conference. So if New England get knocked out, we're essentially the top tier team in the East with home field throughout. So that's huge. And our first game in the knockout round is against who else other than the New York Red Bulls, of course, our rivals. And that's on the 20th in just a few days' time. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to watch the game live because I think I'm going to be at work, but we'll see. So you better believe I'll be following the score at work closely and checking out the lineups and all that. I expect more of the same lineup. I'm expecting Blake in net, Glesnes, Elliott, Bizo, Wagner in the back, Martinez, Flock, Bedoya, Montero, Gazdag, and Shilbilko. I don't see it being anything else unless there's injuries. It's got to be that lineup. And I expect to see a player like Aronson off the bench, maybe even Burke if he's good to go. I don't know about Santos yet. So we still have injuries to deal with and players that just aren't available. He's relying on these homegrowns off the bench right now. He really is, Jim Curtin. Just what a wonderful job he's done with this team to get them to second place again. I mean, Jim Curtin, give him all the credit in the world for doing what he's done with this squad that most coaches would not be able to do. Just would not be able to do. A lot of coaches in this league would have the same roster probably finishing 5th, 6th in their conferences, respectively, maybe even lower, you know. But he knows where to plug his guys in. He knows, you know, what best positions are for a lot of his players, and he keeps them there for the most part, and he has everybody bought into his system, his defense system and possession style, and, you know, strong on the counterattack, and at times high pressing, and just kind of, you know, offense by committee thing, and it works for this squad. So, really proud of that. What concerns me about this playoff game? There's a few things. One is we were one and done last year. We won the Support Shield and lost to New England 2-0. So we have all this pressure on us to get it done in the playoffs for once, because we've had a few good seasons now, but haven't really made noise in the playoffs. Haven't gone far. You know, we made it to semifinals in the Champions League. We won the Supporter Shield. Can we do some damage in the playoffs finally? Can we win these big games? You know, that's the thing. It kind of hangs over our head as a franchise right now. Another thing is our offense seems to always disappear in these big moments. In the Champions League, it did. In the playoffs before, you know, last year it did. We got shut out. You know, our offense just seems to disappear, and that's because we don't have that one guy that we can rely on to turn the game on its head. We need everybody to kind of contribute on offense as a unit. And if that doesn't happen, we're going to struggle. You know, we're going to struggle. If one or two players struggle offensively to get involved, we're not going to create a lot of chances. Montero isn't involved in this game. You know, and Gazdag, if he's not involved in this game, we're not going to score goals. You know, we can't. Shabilko needs service. You know, if Santos isn't in there, that kind of eliminates our speed factor up top. You know, a lot of our offense comes from those wing backs, Bizo and especially Wagner, delivering crosses, getting up into the attack. We're going to need that too. So it's going to be a lot of, you know, this player, that player all need to be contributing and getting involved in offense and pushing forward. We need to go at them. I don't want this team to sit back. The worst thing that can happen is that we get an early goal and then they kind of just sit back. Because that's what happens with the Union sometimes. We get that early goal and then we kind of like take our foot off the pedal, allow the other teams to get back in the game. That's probably the worst thing that can happen for us. Because we'll just stop going forward and we'll just sit back a bit. Whether that's just a team mentality or whether that's something that Jim Curtin is instilling, I don't like it. I think if you get a goal early, especially early in a game, you need to keep going forward, keep pressing, get that second, get that third goal, put this team out of it. We have way more talent than the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls shouldn't even be in the playoffs. Like, nobody thought they were going to make it. It looked like they weren't going to make it, but here they are. You know, freaking guys like Sean Davis, you know, Nealis, Klamala, you know, Caceres, they aren't, John Tolkien, I mean, come on. These guys are not that great. There's no way we should be losing to this team at home, but it could happen because they could pop up with a goal or two. And, you know, Fabio's not a bad striker up there. You know, you could put one in there, and but they defensively are kind of organized. The Red Bulls give up, I think, less goals than us. And they have our former keeper, Coronel, who's having a great season. So they have a system. They stick to it, and they have a more of a offense by committee kind of thing too. In a way, we're a lot similar to them, but they play a lot, I think, more in-your-face style with less talent, for sure. But you know, they could steal this one. That's what I'm worried about. Is their offense is going to disappear, and we're just not going to show up in the big game again. It's very concerning because they have another thing that concerns me is that they have no pressure on them, the Red Bulls. Nobody's expecting them to win this game. Heck, most of their fans aren't expecting them to win this game, I'm sure. And just making the playoffs for them was probably a bit of a surprise. So they're going into the second best team in the Eastern Conference thinking, you know, hey, you know, just lay it all out there. Maybe something good can happen, you know? So they have no pressure on them whatsoever. We, on the other hand, have a lot of pressure on us to get it done in the playoffs, to win at home, in front of the fans, to make a good run. We have a chance to at least make the semifinals against New England. And who knows? If we make that game up in New England, who knows? For all we know, New England could get knocked out in their first playoff game. It happens to a lot of Supporter Shield teams. They don't win the cup. New England they could lay an egg and lose to somebody in their first playoff game like we did last year. And then we would have home field throughout getting, at least up into the cup, which would be amazing. And you get to the cup, it doesn't matter who you're playing, where you're playing, you just get there and take your chance, These one-off playoff games are very, very nerve-wracking, that's for sure. But we gotta show up. They gotta be ready to go, and that's all gonna be Curtin getting his guys geared up, ready to go. The captain, Bedoya, and just the veterans on the team getting this team. I think the youngsters will be okay. I think I'm more worried about some of the players that need to show up, like Gazdag, Montero, Shabilko, and the defense. They need to show up in this game. I have no doubt that players like Flock, Bizo, Aaron Sand are going to put in good efforts no matter what, because they're younger players. They're like, let's just get at it and go. It's some of those more veteran players, the guys that we're supposed to rely on, that are, kind of concern me, because, if they disappear in the game, it's going to hurt us. It's really going to hurt us. So, but, a really good season overall, considering all the things that we, like I talked about, the Champions League, the injuries, the suspensions, the international duties, the finish second. I didn't see this coming. I thought Nashville had second place locked up. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd even slip out of the top 4. But, we got it done in the end. It wasn't a great final game against New York City, getting a tie up a man, but, on that postage stamp of a field against New York City Diving Club, I'll take a point, I guess. But, I'm very nervous for the game coming up, because this is our best team in Philadelphia right now, is the Union. There's no doubt about it. They don't get a lot of talk. They don't get a lot of glitz and glamour. Nobody cares about them, really, in the mainstream. It's all about the Sixers and the Flyers and the Eagles right now, of course, which I love those teams too. Don't get me wrong, I love all the Philly teams. But the Union are the best team in Philadelphia right now, and it's not even close. It's not even close for me. The Sixers are a mess right now. Sixers are a mess. And frankly, the Sixers have been just a mediocre team for the past couple years, after being a horrible team for many years. I don't think the Sixers have been elite yet with Embiid and company. They've been close, but they haven't been there. You look at the Flyers, who were a mess last year, and they're kind of like every other year the Flyers are in the playoffs. Very inconsistent. Flyers look pretty good so far this year, but the Union have been consistent for a couple years now, and have actually won a trophy last year, made it far in the Champions League, and here we are in second place in the Eastern Conference again. The Eagles were the best team. Now they're terrible. The Eagles are really bad right now. They're kind of going through a transition period. And then the Phillies Phillies haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years, so you can't say they're the best. The only other team that you might be able to say is the best in Philadelphia right now is maybe the Sixers, but again, they're a bit of a mess, and we all know what's going on with the whole Ben Simmons drama, but I just wish more people cared about the Union, because they are the best team in Philadelphia right now. They are our best shot at winning a championship right now in Philadelphia. It's not the Sixers, it's not the Flyers, certainly not the Eagles. It's the Union. They are our best shot, The Sixers, if they make a few trades here and there, maybe they could be a championship caliber team, but I don't think they are right now. I wish they were, but they just aren't. They're just, the Sixers are just the Sixers. They're the same second round and out team that they've been for the past couple years. But, I'm glad they're relevant again, but they aren't elite like they were in the early 2000s with the Iverson, Mutombo, Eric Snow, and all them. Not elite yet. Not elite like the Eagles were a few years ago winning the Super Bowl. Well, not elite like the Flyers once were many years ago. Not elite like the Phillies were back in like 2008 to 2011. But the Union are becoming more of an elite squad. Is my point here. think that they are our best shot at winning a championship in Philadelphia right now. And it starts on the 20th, on Saturday. Can they get it done? Let's hope for that. That's about it, guys. Not much more to say. If you guys have anything to say about this playoff game coming up, let me know in the comments, please. Tell me what you think the result might be. Are you scared about this playoff game too? Because I am, but I also have confidence in our team that we're going to get it done and push on to the next round game and get another home playoff game. But again, it's scary because they have no pressure on them, the Red Bulls. No pressure. But we have all the talent compared to them, and there's no excuses that we shouldn't win this game. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to the latest installment of the Doop podcast. Please take care of yourselves. Be safe. Enjoy your Thanksgiving as well. Be safe on Black Friday. And until next time, 0 is the number.